We're back, people. What is up? First stream after that embarrassing Browns loss. It is officially draft season. Probably gonna be the first game in a long time, in years, where I'm not gonna make an initial breakdown after this one. I'm not gonna do the offense and defense as a whole. I might still do some individual player breakdowns throughout the week. But don't really see the point. Don't really have the motivation to do like a full-on breakdown because that game ended very quickly versus the Browns for many of reasons. We can talk about it for a little bit, but I do really want to focus mainly on the future because I feel like everyone's kind of on the same page about what's happening right now and what just happened in that game. Here we go. I'll stay loyal to this misery. Yeah, that's just kind of how it is. To be fair, for a loss as bad as it was yesterday, I really didn't feel that much. I didn't even get that mad throughout the game. I was, just kind of chilling, vibing, kind of expected. Because to break down the game, here's how it went. Basically, it was going to be a very weather-affected game. It was going to be a defensive matchup. You're on the road up against a very good defense with horrible weather. So I think we all kind of expected the offense to have its struggles, which it did. The offense was very bad. It was definitely the worst offensive performance since week 1. But that didn't really surprise me. I think the Dolphins just lost right away because the Dolphins it basically came down to who gifted the other team's points, because I don't think the Dolphins and Browns, either offense is built to play from behind, especially multiple scores from behind. And the Dolphins, actually the refs kind of gifted the Browns 10 points, honestly. Not to blame the refs, but I do think that's the most, some of the worst ref calls I've seen. At least the first, start of the game, they gifted them 3, and then the Dolphins got an interception, and they called that Minka PI. Obviously, that was horrible. I don't really care, because, just how it plays out. But, yeah, they kind of gifted them 10 points, and then the Dolphins special teams, Eskridge fumbled, and that gifted them, another 7. So we kind of gifted them 17 in the first half, and then that's when the offense started gifting the Browns points. Obviously, we get to that pick 6, and then by that point the game was over. I know then Tua threw the 2 really bad interceptions. Game was over by that point, but it wasn't really surprising to me. Tua always kind of presses in those situations, trying to make plays that aren't typically there. But yeah, that's kind of how that played out. Hold on, I got a cough. Yeah, I watched the full game, but I definitely wasn't super paying. Yeah, we even brought Ewers in for a little bit at the end there, which was interesting to see. He also got a little bit lucky because his first pass probably should have been picked up, but it was dropped. It would have been funny if his first pass was picked up. So the forecast was expected to be, it wasn't as bad, but it definitely still affected the game, because I think the Dolphins offense definitely left a lot of plays on the field in the first half. They never made any tough catches. I feel like that's where Tua wasn't as bad in the first half, and his receivers kind of let him down. And then the second half, obviously more of a different story. But either way, I wasn't expecting much from the offense. If we didn't get much from the offense, defense was better. We can go to the defense now. The defense was supposed to play better in this game because you're playing a bad Browns offense, and the weather should be in your advantage. And I would say the defense did play better. A lot of the points, were gifted. The first 10 were gifted from the refs, in my opinion. I don't think those were penalties. Maybe one of them was, but I don't think the rest of them were penalties. Then I go to, then they got an interception. Then they give the 40-yard rush. They actually kind of did stop Judkins for the most part. It was just 2 plays. Again, typically what the Dolphins' run defense has been doing this season. They actually, I believe, 9 tackles for losses, which is a way big improvement. They just gave up that one. It was 2 big chunk plays. And then, the offense, obviously, some of those points went 7 or more off a pick 6. Another one, a turnover. They started at the 2-yard line, so I don't put those points on the defense. Another touchdown came off a special teams fumble. So, defense wasn't as bad, but it was a game where they shouldn't have been as bad. Individual performances, I would say the biggest positive takeaway, in my opinion, from this game, because there wasn't really many positive takeaways to have, is it was Kenneth Grant's best game. I just watched the Kenneth Grant film. He didn't really have any main negative plays. he didn't have too many pass rush opportunities, but thought he looked fine in his pass rush opportunities. And I think versus the run, it was definitely his best, most consistent game. I thought he penetrated in the backfield when he needed to. He had a couple tackles. He had a tackle behind the line, a couple tackles at the line of scrimmage. And then I thought versus like double teams and when he had the 2-gap, he held his own. So I think that's a positive takeaway is the last 2 weeks, Kenneth Grant has looked like an NFL player. So hopefully he continue on that path. That would be very nice. It seems like he's at least starting to figure it out somewhat. The Dolphins desperately need it. That's what this season's for at this point now. You're looking at the young guys and you're trying to see, who shows up. I think you're definitely sellers after this game. They played and if you look at the snaps, Chop's snap percentage went up. He actually played 44% of the snaps. He's been playing like 30 the last few weeks. So Chop went up. They sat Judon. Quentin Bell barely played. So like they played Phillips, Chubb, and Chop a lot. Like Phillips and Chubb's, their snap percentage went up too because they didn't play Judon, and Bell barely played in his place while being active. So those 3 actually looked good in their pass rush opportunities. It's just the Browns barely passed the ball. Like when they did pass the ball, it was either a screen or a bootleg. There was only like a few true pass rush opportunities, and they did do pretty good in those spots. So I would try to, you try to sell on those guys like Phillips and Chubb, and then hope, Chop can actually get his opportunities, go back to being like the main guy, see what goes on with that. But yeah, defense overall, Minka, they call that dumb PI, but Minka's still one of your better players. I thought Jordan Brooks had a solid game. Yeah, overall defensively, nothing too crazy there. It just really was nothing to break down. But yeah, let me see what I can say. Yeah, there's also a report from Rappaport today that Dolphins aren't making any changes at this time. I don't think that really matters. I mean, if it continues down this path, if they play like this, you got to make changes at the end of the season. I don't care if they make it during the season. I don't really think that changes anything. As long as it's made at the end of the season. And if you are going to start over at one spot, I think you should start over at all of the spots. I think they need a full-on reset. I'm sick of the half measure stuff, which then obviously that makes, we'll talk about the draft. That makes, if you're picking out the top 5, obviously QB's in play. You don't have to take one, but obviously it's in play. Cardinals and Dolphins trade Kyler and Tua just to keep things interesting until they cut them both. I mean, if it helped for cap purposes, maybe. But honestly, Kyler's not good. Is the thumb and hip injury a factor for Tua at this point, or is he spooked, or all of the above? The mechanics completely disappearing is so out. Let me see. I think he even said the thumb thing might have affected him a bit, but I don't know. I don't think the injuries played that much of an effect. Because really what happened is he started playing really bad when the Dolphins were down multiple scores, and especially when like the game was over. And I think that's pretty normal for Tua, is he starts to press and be like, oh, I got to make the big play. I got to start forcing stuff because we've kind of already lost. We got to hit some big opportunities. And obviously then you have those really bad interceptions. What's the deal with Zach Wilson? Last minute game day decision. Sounds like he may be part of a trade package. That is a possibility, Mark. I think that is something to keep in mind. But I also think it is just a possibility that Ewers maybe had been outperforming him in practice and they felt better about him. Either way, I don't think it matters which QB plays with this team. You're probably still going to struggle. I still think obviously Tua gives you your best chance to win in most spots. Yeah, I'm probably going to do a Grant breakdown tomorrow, Troll. It will probably be mostly the Browns game. I may throw some Chargers clips in there as well. I thought he played well. I literally just went and watched Grant because I remember thinking he played solid during the game. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch Grant first. So I just watched his 30. He played like 30 snaps, 29 snaps. So pretty half. And I think the Dolphins have done a better job of like putting him in better opportunities. Like they started the last couple of weeks, like sort of limiting maybe some of his first down reps. And I think that's helped build his confidence. So when he has been out there for first down, he's done a better job of it. So I'll definitely get out a Grant video this week. And then probably draft stuff for sure. I'll stream draft stuff. Who do you think McDaniel's putting on the chopping block? Players or coaches? I mean, you got to be considering everything. If you're McDaniel and you're getting the shot, you got to, try something completely new, right? Whatever that consists of, changing up some players, coaches. I think it could be a mix of both. Or maybe just even his style completely. Because I do believe McDaniel will go somewhere and probably be a pretty successful offensive coordinator. But if he wants another shot as a head coach, he's got to be able to show some sort of a level of adaptability. I can't believe they're still not considering firing the head coach yet. Yeah, I think they might just be letting the year play out, and then obviously if it stays on this path, you got to move on. But who knows? I never know what's going on with Ross. If it's me, I'm benching Tua and letting Ewers play with the starters. I'll never be able to truly evaluate him because Tua and the staff is probably done next season. Yeah, I mean, that's not... I think that is something I would probably do a little bit later, because I feel like if you do it now, it actually shows the players you're kind of punting on the season. And it's something I don't expect. Probably, McDaniel, I could do it, I guess. Because it does seem like McDaniel and Tua are kind of throwing subtle shots at each other in their press conferences. So maybe, they've hit a breaking point. But I also think McDaniel knows it's still his best chance of winning. And if he wants to have some chance to save his job, which, who knows. But I do think that is not a bad idea at some point to at least see what you got. Because, I do think Ewers can be a backup. But I only think he can be a backup in a Shanahan-style system. And if you do move on from McDaniel, would you still have someone from that scheme be your play caller next year? Who knows? But yeah, anything else? Yeah, the main problem with the Dolphins offense yesterday, so this was a stat, shout out Dante Colinelli. This was what happened with the Dolphins offense. Their yards per play on first down after the first quarter was 3.8. So obviously they were really bad on first down, which is something they've struggled with all season. Their average distance on third down was 8.8 yards, which is pretty high. But then their third down conversions after the first quarter was 0 for 11, which is the one area the Dolphins have actually been good this season. And this is a game the Dolphins were not good on third down, and I think it makes sense because the pass game was just not working in these conditions. And against that pass defense, I got to give the Browns credit. Things were not open down the field. I think there was only I just watched the offense just to, kind of skim on it. I knew I wasn't going to make a film breakdown, but I watched the offense and I'm like, oh yeah, I only saw 2 routes open downfield probably the whole game. The Browns did a good job. Got to give them credit. Does Mike bench Jonah, move him to the right side? But I don't know if Jonah... I don't know if that's the fix they're looking for. Because to me, I wouldn't bench him. Because at this point in the season, you need to see what you have in the rookies. It is a possibility. But if you watch the O-line yesterday, Cole Strange was much worse than Jonah. And then... I don't know, does benching Jonah really change anything, though? Who do you bring in for him that's going to do better? And then who knows? Maybe you also get back James Daniels this week. That's I guess that is a possibility. Makes this, yeah, Browns pass rush is very good. They haven't scored in the third in 3 games now. How can we not adjust? That is true. Dolphins have really struggled in the third quarter specifically. Yeah, I try not to put too much stock into the press conferences. You can, because people are never telling fully the truth, anyways. But yeah, it did seem like there was something going on there. But yeah, let's start talking a little bit of the draft, because it is draft season. I'm gonna make a draft video, probably multiple draft videos this week. Maybe get a film breakdown out there. I might do a QB video where I just talk about the top 3, because I think there's a pretty clear top 3 in this class. Hopefully all 3 declare, so you actually give the Dolphins if they do want to take a QB and say they're picking top 5, say they don't end up picking 1, because, it's still, probably more likely top 5 than picking first. It gives you that opportunity. Now, I like all 3, and I think all 3 could be good. I think it would just depend on who the Dolphins coach would actually be, who I would prefer. But yeah, going into the draft. So this just as an overall view, this is what I think the Dolphins need on the defense side of the ball. They need every position as of right now. Obviously, they're going to need help at every spot. Now, so much can change in between. You can make trades, free agency, that could change what your bigger needs end up being. But the Dolphins need to get fast and physical on defense. If you look at some of the best defenses in the league, it's guys flying around the field and being super, super physical. And the Dolphins desperately need that on the defensive side of the ball. There's a lot of players in this class. I think the linebacker class has a lot of fast and physical players. I would love to take a linebacker. Pair that with Jordan Brooks. If you pair a solid stud linebacker with Jordan Brooks, like look at the Browns. Carson Schwessinger for the Browns. They took him like early second. I think he was the first pick in the second round. He's been a stud for them. You noticed him yesterday because he has the range and he plays super, super physical. And I think that's just something the Dolphins desperately need. I think they need, obviously, secondary help, but also fast and physical secondary players because I feel like the secondary missing tackles has been a big problem for the Dolphins the last 2 seasons. And it's something that I think kind of just goes like under the radar, being like, it sucks, but it's not that big of a deal. But like it changes, 3rd and 4s into 3rd and 1s, because you missed that tackle, or it should have tackled them and it should have been a 3rd and 4, and that ends up somehow being a first down because they forced a missed tackle. Like those end up being game-changing plays. Yes, I agree with BPA as well. BPA for sure. Hold on, can I click on these? I just want to make sure. Why can't I click? Okay. Those comments aren't popping up, which sucks. Greer was in Columbia, South Carolina, presumably scouting Sellers. I still really like him as a late round option. I don't see Sellers going late round, though. But yeah, I did see they were at that game. That doesn't necessarily mean, they could be scouting him, but that doesn't necessarily mean they like him. Might just mean they have question marks, because the Dolphins haven't always had a great history of scouting players that they were actually, like, players that are known to go watch, of taking them. But who knows? But yeah, defense side of the ball, fast, physical, linebacker class for sure. There's some guys, safeties. You're picking at the top and you don't take a quarterback. Arvell Reese, Caleb Downs, Mansour Delane. I really like Delane from the corner from LSU. Good player. Ruben Bain Jr., edge. Yeah, Mendoza. The QBs. I'm going to make a video later this week where I talk about the top 3 QBs. I've already talked about them a decent amount in the stream. Mendoza's obviously one of them. But yeah. Offensively, I actually think the Dolphins can. Like, the defense, I think, would need a very big overhaul to, turn things around. So it might take a little bit longer for the defense to have, a full-on turnaround. I actually think that offense is in a place where they could turn, if they put in the right resources, they could actually turn around the offense fairly quick. Now, it obviously depends. Hey, if you have a whole new coaching staff, you bring in a rookie QB, the play caller and the rookie QB having, that sort of marriage is very, very important. They need to have that combination. If they don't, then that can, really kill things. But I don't think they're that far off. You don't need to add crazy amounts of weapons. You probably need to add one quality wide receiver, and you're probably good at for weapons. You can add a running back, but you don't need to add anything crazy. You don't need to put crazy resources in those spots. I think the really area that I think can really change, if they go into this draft, this is something I really think can change the dynamic of the offense, is a stud tight end. An all-around stud tight end. Because I think that helps out every group, because it helps out your passing game, helps out your running game, and it puts helps out your offensive line, in the run game. Look at the Niners last night. I don't know if you guys watched the Niners game last night. George Kittle came back, didn't have a single catch, and he was one of the most impactful players on that field. In the Niners offense, without him on the field, McCaffrey was averaging under 3 yards per carry. With him on the field, he was averaging 7 yards per carry. It was insane, the effect Kittle can have on a game. Finding a stud all-around tight end like that would be such a big thing. I love Kenyon Sadiq from Oregon. If you end up getting a player like that, I think it can change the dynamic for the offense. You know how much I loved Tyler Warren last year. That would have been something I would have done, but, can't change the past. But that is something I think the Dolphins can heavily. I think O-line and tight end, if you put some resources into that, a stud tight end, you take some O-linemen, I think the offense can get back on track fairly easy. It hasn't been the offense has been that bad this year. Obviously, versus the Browns, they were horrible. Overall, I don't think the offense can. I think the turnaround is a little bit easier for the offense than the defense, because the defense is going to need help at every single spot. When does Danielson Jackson come back? Honestly, no idea, Nick. We haven't gotten any information on that. If you were to take a look at Georgia Tech, their 7 QB is pretty mobile, understanding good linebacker QB could be a late round pick. Who, Haynes? I think he's a good college quarterback. I don't really think he's an NFL guy. He's an NFL guy if he becomes like a Taysom Hill, where they use him like that. Because I don't think he can be an NFL passer. Yeah, we do have a ton of picks. Hopefully we can make the most of them. And obviously we could even add more picks right now. With the potential trades. The Dolphins will probably be one of the biggest sellers. And hopefully teams are desperate for edge help. Because that's how you can actually get some decent picks if teams are desperate for edge help. But it seems like some teams are. Don't go QB in this draft if they absolutely have to. I would only consider Ty Simpson. I mean, I think you have to consider taking QB if you're picking top 5. Obviously, a lot can change from this point on to next, till the draft. Like, so much can change. So I'm not going to, say one thing definitively or another. But I think as of right now, I think Ty Simpson is my favorite. But it is a little bit risky because this is his first year starting. But that means he could also just get better. But like he does all the QB stuff. Well, I also think he's pretty athletic. He makes some plays off script. I think he's tough. I think he's smart. He's already shown really good development, anticipation, accuracy, tight window throws over the middle of the field, which is big. I don't know. I think that kid's legit. But we'll see if he even comes out. But I think if he continues on this trajectory, he should come out because that means he should go pretty high. Might get sucked into Sellers. Yeah. I mean, I think Sellers has some tools to work with. I think his stats at South Carolina do look worse than his actual play. I know some people compare him to Anthony Richardson. I think he's better than Anthony. Richardson was as a passer. He's already further along. But there is some risk that definitely comes along with trying to take Sellers. Yeah. So was Nussmeier's dad. Yeah, well, Nussmeier's dad isn't a head coach, but he's a QB coach, I think, for the Saints. But I'm not on the Nussmeier train. He's fallen off. Trading Chubb, Phillips, Sealer, Fitzpatrick, and maybe Waddle. Achane if the price is right. I know it's hard to do when Grit is on the line. Not sure if they will. I wouldn't trade Waddle and Achane. I think the other ones could be up for consideration. I don't know if it's worth it to trade. I think with the new contract, I don't think you can trade Sealer. And I don't think it's even worth it, really. I'd rather just keep Sealer and hope he bounces back next year with, better coaching and players around him. And then Fitzpatrick, I think you could potentially trade because I think Fitzpatrick playing really well. Also, I would throw in Rasul Douglas here, too. If a team's desperate for a corner play, Rasul has actually played pretty well this year, and he's not a part of long-term plans. Minka, you do have under contract after this year, but he has no guaranteed money. So, if you are planning to move on from this after the season because you need cap space, might as well try to trade him. Drew Aller, but not in the first round. Honestly, I wouldn't take Drew Aller until the 7th round. And I don't even know if he would come out. Didn't he have he just had a season-ending injury. QB Sellers, I watched him the last couple of weeks. Not impressed by him. Yeah, I mean, I could understand that watching him live the last couple of weeks, not being impressed for sure. But I do think it's been more of a South Carolina issue than him issue. It also makes it tough to actually know who we would like because you don't know who the GM and the coach will be because that could change preferences and who you think would have the likelihood of succeeding with a new coach. Oh, I got hiccup. Okay. But yeah, fast and physical. The Dolphins just need to get fast and physical, man. And if that means sacrificing some, say you're in the 4th round and you got an undersized DB there, but the undersized DB is a good player. He's fast and physical. He only fell because he's undersized. Take him. One of the best DBs rookie so far has been Jacob Parrish, and he was an undersized DB. I don't mind taking an undersized player that falls a little bit because sometimes that's where you can find some good work. Who's your favorite tackle? Honestly, I haven't studied too many tackles yet, but early I would say probably Fano from Utah. Especially if the Dolphins are running a similar scheme next year. Really good run blocker, really athletic as a run blocker. But who knows? Seeing Waddle only get hit 15 yards hurts my soul. I mean, that was just the game. We were never going to see a high. I literally benched him in fantasy because of the weather. Like, I knew he wasn't going to have a big game. What kept Lamar Jackson going high in the draft? I mean, I had Lamar Jackson as the #1 quarterback in that draft. I think the reason is teams didn't think he was a passer. I think they thought he was a runner first, and they thought he would be able to hold up at the NFL level. And I think that was at a time where like teams weren't sure if people could be like a super running first quarterback. But then, Lamar even developed more as a passer. He definitely should have gone higher than when he went, obviously. No Waller targets? Well, Waller did get hurt and didn't play like a decent chunk of the game. Waller might have a serious injury. Kenyon Sadiq, Kenyon Sadiq had 2 touchdowns last week. He's a very good athlete, can stretch the field, and he has some of the most physically dominant run blocking reps you'll ever see from a tight end in college football. If you're picking in like that 10 range, Sadiq has to be considered for sure. Going earlier than draft, yeah. No, I knew what you meant, T. Yeah, I think teams were just, back then, at that time, they literally thought he was just a runner, which was disrespectful. Yeah. Who's got it worse than Dolphins fans? Not many. Maybe there's some arguments out there, but I don't know. You consider the playoff drought, the recent play, the devastation. But yeah, I'm going to get out a Kenneth Grant film breakdown probably tomorrow because Kenneth Grant was one of the positives of yesterday. Yeah. You know what I thought was weird yesterday? The Dolphins completely benched Trader and played Melifonwu in his spot, which I get Trader missed that tackle last week, but I think it's stupid. Because yes, he missed a tackle, but even after the fact, the coach said it wasn't like, that wasn't even his responsibility to be there. And Minka even said that was his guy. He wasn't supposed to pass it off. Like, I feel like benching a rookie for that, especially when you're at this sort of level as a team, like you were 1-5 when you benched him, like, let the kid play. Like, and you need to play Melifonwu less because Melifonwu needs less snaps so you can confirm you get the 4th round comp pick for Holland. Because it might get canceled out if Melifonwu plays enough snaps because something with Deshaun Hand not playing. We got to bench Tua. He's become a problem with turnovers. I mean, if you bench Tua, you're benching Tua just to see what you have in Ewers. I don't think it's really because of the turnovers. Obviously, he's had a turnover problem. But I think the turnover problem in the Browns game came once the game was over, to be honest. Like, those last 2 picks, the game was over. It was late in the 4th quarter. You were down 3 scores. Like, if you want to win, you need to play Tua. If you want to see what you have in Ewers, you play Ewers. Obviously, playing Tua doesn't mean you're going to win, but it's one of these, it will have your chance of being more competitive. I mean, that's just the way it is. But either way, honestly, at this point in the season, I don't care. Did you watch Pat Paul? What happened to my screen right here? In this game specifically? I did not watch Paul specifically, but I believe he played like a solid game. I think he was like, had a couple of reps he would want back, but like overall pretty solid. I think Brewer was probably your best O-lineman. Or he's been your most consistent. While Paul's been a better pass pro guy than I think run blocker. Trying to find positives. Yeah, I think Paul was solid from what I saw. I didn't notice anything crazy. That's why, like, I do like, if they do go tackle, it's in like, say it was the Utah tackle or the Miami Hurricanes tackle, those guys are both like very physical run blockers. could be pretty solid. With any interest in Spagnuolo or Deuce Staley? I don't know. I mean, I think Spagnuolo's a really good defensive mind, and I don't mind like if that's one of the guys. If you want to take a shot on one of the the former head coaches that didn't work out, that's not a horrible one to do. I just don't know if he would leave Kansas City. And then Deuce Staley, I have no idea how he would be as a head coach. Genuinely no idea. When Jonah freed Achan on that second level block, I was so excited he was going to have a good game, and he went back to Jonah. Well, to be fair to Jonah, I think it was similar to last week. He just had like 2 really bad reps. In the rest of the game, he was fine. He had the one really bad rep that you've probably seen is the one at the end of the game when Ewers was in. He got absolutely destroyed in that. Only bright spot? Who was the only bright spot? Achan? It wasn't even Achan's best game because he played a big part in the pick 6. Like, obviously wasn't a great throw from Tua, but Achan usually doesn't drop passes that hits both of his hands, so that kind of. But he had a good running game for sure. You don't trade Achan. I think trading Achan and Waddle is dumb. And I know like the only way you would trade them is you got blown away. And I don't even think you can trade Waddle contractually. To me, there's no logical reason to trade Waddle. Trading Achan is like I could at least make some logical sense to it, but I would not like it. Can you make a video of potential GM replacements, even though we know it would still be Greer? I could do a stream on that where I could look up some GMs. GM replacement is tough. I think picking head coaches is a little bit easier because you see a lot of the head coaches' personalities, so you can kind of tell how they would be, in their interviews, talking to teams. People who are not the GM, like assistant GMs, like those guys are rarely ever interviewed, so we don't really know. And then like you don't know how much say they actually have behind the scenes. Like, were they behind this pick or are they behind this pick? Unless it's like specifically said. So it's very hard to judge who's going to actually be a good GM. Coaching, you can at least watch games and see what their scheme is like. You can see how they are as people. You can kind of at least get somewhat of a feel. GM is very difficult to predict, in my opinion, it from the outside at least. Like if I was obviously in buildings and able to see, these guys and hear them talk game, you could obviously have a good feel for it. You trade Waddle and HM makes it even harder to get interest from a new GM, yeah, and coaching. You at least need to have some pieces to work with. I've been noticing HM really dropping those dump offs to him. Yeah, he's had 2 now. He had one this game, and he had one against the Panthers. And HM had only 1 drop coming into this season, I think, in the NFL. Couldn't be any worse than we were. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to move on and take a shot. I just have no idea who will actually be good, Would you take a second for A-Chain? I mean, I'd probably think about it. But this is for me, like what we have to consider with A-Chan. If you look at your cap situation and you think okay, we can pay A-Chan what he wants, then I'm not taking it. But if you're thinking dude, we can't pay A-Chan, then you would probably seriously consider a pick like that. But I just don't think it's worth it. Also, it would depend on which team. Was it an early second? Because an early second is very different from a late second. But probably not. But I don't think you can trade Waddle because of his contract. And it's not worth it. I just don't unless you got a first plus, which I don't think you would, it just doesn't seem like it would be worth it from any facet of trading Waddle. Tyreek Hill made Tua who he was. I don't think so. I mean, it definitely helps out having Tyreek Hill. I actually think, it's more of a scheme thing. Yeah. I mean, this is his first game. This is like his first bad statistical game without Tyreek ever playing. And then yeah, I'm probably so this week I'm gonna watch a lot of draft players. Gonna start getting into the people. Like I'm kind of going through like the list of prospects, watching people. Gonna try to start finding some sleepers. Who's your favorite overall offense and defensive prospect right now? I would say favorite or best, because best is probably Ruben Bain Jr. Favorite might be Arvell Reese. Arvell Reese is a stud, and that's a new age linebacker that can also play some edge, rush the passer, get just so physical. One of the strongest pound for pound people you'll ever meet, and so athletic. Like that guy, I'm watching him bully offensive linemen. It's insane. And it's not even like he's that big of a linebacker. Like he's got decent size, but he might be my favorite as of right now. But I haven't watched a ton. And then offense, who would be my favorite? Favorite is either Mekhi Lemon or Kenyon Sadiq. Like those are just my kind of players. A very well-rounded tight end that can be very physical as a run blocker. That's athletic. That's my kind of tight end. And the Mekhi Lemon's my type of receiver. Very smart, technical player, catches everything. Just does everything well, from releasing, route running, making tough catches. Those are probably my favorite. And I know I'm saying a receiver. I'm not saying it's my favorite for Miami. I'm just saying it's one of my favorite players to watch. I love watching receivers. Bills RB Cook got paid like $7.5 million. I wouldn't want to go higher than that. Is that what James Cook got paid? I can't even remember. I thought he got more than that, but who knows? James Cook has a 4-year, $48 million contract extension, which includes $30 million guaranteed. So that's $12 million. I was gonna say I thought it was 12. Tyler Warren would have been nice. I mean, I love Tyler Warren. To be fair to Grant just played his best game. Thought he played pretty dang good. Some encouraging signs there from KG. Then let's see. So I will definitely be really digging on draft prospects, and I think let's stream a few times a week, have some videos up, and during the streams I'll talk about new prospects each week that I've watched. So we'll come in and maybe there'll be 3 or 4 new prospects that I've watched. We can talk about them, dig in, see what I like, what I don't like. Is HN worth a James Cook contract? I think that's pretty fair for HN. I think, James Cook might be a little more efficient as an inside runner, but HN's definitely a more impactful pass catcher. Cole Payton, yes, I've heard of Cole Payton. Haven't watched a ton of him yet, but I've seen some people like him. If you guys want a name to keep an eye out quarterback-wise that I think is kind of a sleeper so far, Darian Mensah from Duke. There's something to work with there. If he was a QB that declared in this class and he went second round, he'd be interesting to me. Yeah, from Duke. But he what class is he in? Yeah, he's a redshirt sophomore, so he probably won't declare. But he's 6'3", 205, listed at pretty good athlete, and there's some pretty good examples of him on film, playing with anticipation, some good ball or some good accuracy. Yeah. They lowered his last week. They definitely lowered his playing time on rundowns. This week it kind of went up a little bit, and it was definitely his best game versus the run. I thought by far his best game versus the run because he had multiple tackles at the line of scrimmage or for loss or for 1-yard gains. And then he first double teams or where he had a 2-gap, he held his own. There wasn't a rep where he got pushed back multiple yards, which I thought was really good for him. I'm just talking guaranteed money on Cook. Oh, I mean, guaranteed money. I mean, yeah. If you were there, what would you do to Tua and Mikey Daniel? I mean, I just let the season play out and probably fully reset afterwards, you know? What do you think of the Mahomes cosplayer from Nebraska? Well, he's not draft eligible, but bro, I would if he ended up being the Dolphins quarterback, I feel like I would have a really hard time rooting for him. You know, like it's fine to take some inspiration from people, but like the things he's done to Cobby Mahomes is like borderline creepy. Like, so I don't know, you know. Not putting too much stock in that. But yeah, there's some interesting names in this class at QB that could be like potential, like Darren Mensa. Later on options like Taylon Green. I don't even know who's going to declare yet, though. But there's some guys that like Ty Simpson, Mendoza, more. I want to start Quinn Ewers next game just to see what he do. I mean, not out of the realm of possibility. But I would like to see the Dolphins versus the Falcons, legit. And yeah, so trade deadline. I think it's a couple weeks away. I think the Dolphins should definitely be in selling mode as of right now. Whether it, I mean, I would probably start doing it now, just in case, you know, you don't want to risk it in case players get injured, you know, after the Falcons game. But if you have to wait until after the Falcons game, so be it. As long as they get some picks, because let's look at the Dolphins draft picks. I forget what draft picks they have going into next year. Miami Dolphins. And it also kind of depends, do they actually get that Holland comp? So yeah, they have a first, a second, which are currently very high picks. Now, if you were picking high second round, you got to nail that one. The high second round picks, there's usually some really, really good players there. You know, the Carson Schwechingers, some really good receivers like Lad McConkey and stuff. You have 2 third-round picks. I can't remember who this third-round pick is from, but you have 2 thirds. Oh, it was what you traded last year, right? Yeah, because you traded out of the 4th last year to get a 3rd this year. I forgot. Yeah. Then you have 2 fourths, but one of those is a comp as of right now, so we get to keep that. And then you have a 5th and a 7th, and no 6th, because I think you traded away for the Waller thing for 6. So pick up some picks in the middle rounds. I'm assuming we've been getting lowballed on comp for our players. I mean, maybe. Probably waiting for teams to get a little more desperate. Just want to see. Yeah, this is definitely a young guy season now, so see Kenneth Grant develop a little bit. It's been nice the last couple of weeks. Hopefully we can see some development as other guys. I don't understand like not playing Trader in this game. You know, I want to see development out of him. Continue playing Jonah. I know Jonah's had his struggles, but I do think overall Jonas had less bad plays in the last 2 weeks. It's just those bad plays stand out so bad because they're really bad. The rest of the game is not horrible. It's just those like 2 plays each game. Really bad. Why is Waller getting so much hype for a guy that hasn't been relevant since 2020? I mean, Waller was just playing really well. And obviously he just got hurt, which sucks, but he was playing well. Trade Tyreek Hill, I mean, you can't. He's literally knee is done for. What would you take pick-wise for Waddle Chan? Honestly, like, no team would ever offer a first for a running back like A-Chan. and I just don't think I'm taking a second for him. So I'm pretty much not getting anything I would take for Achan. And then Waddle, the only like literally, I'm pretty sure cap wise, like it would mess up your cap situation so bad. It put you in such a bad position, like dead money and stuff. Like it doesn't even make sense to trade Waddle at all. So like they would have to really overpay. That would be like first plus. Because I don't even think it's worth it to just trade Waddle first. Like people are like the second and fifth rumor that was out there. Like I don't even think that's worth it just for like the type of player he is. And then also you have to consider the cap space, which it's actually a very friendly contract for the team. If he's kept on on the roster. You're not going to get a better player than him most likely. We can still make it to the Super Bowl. I'm going all in. Hey, I respect it, Lambtree. Jason Marshall. Marshall's been on IR for like the last 3 weeks, so he hasn't played. But if Marshall comes back, I would like to see him play some outside corner because that's where he's supposed to be playing. And I think, it would be nice to at least see what he would look like there. Waddle's a speed guy. You need one. Yeah, but Waddle's so much more than just a speed guy. Because, I'm not going to let just this one, game versus the Browns in bad weather, decide how I feel about a player. I know he obviously wasn't his best game, but like it wasn't expected to be a heavy throwing game. Both teams threw for like 100 yards. But yeah, I will say though, the receiver class is pretty good. Like say you're in day 2 and there's like a solid complementary receiver. You have 3 day 2 picks. So we have 2/3 and a second as of this point. I wouldn't mind taking a receiver, depending on what you do in free agency, obviously, but like BPA receivers there, day 2, not against it. But obviously it's so far out, who knows? They need to fix the O-line. Yeah, they definitely need to get some O-line help, but I think the problems with the Dolphins go far beyond the O-line. So definitely want to still put some resources in the O-line, but I don't think the Dolphins are in a position where they can just focus on going after O-line. Like the defense needs so much work at every spot. Definitely need to get it tight end. Speed means little when you jump in the air. I mean, I wouldn't say it means little, but from an after the catch standpoint. Plus Waddle, I mean, Waddle's so much more than speed. So much. But yeah, keep an eye out. Definitely defense, I think mostly a coaching problem. I think it's partly a coaching problem, but I think it's mostly a player problem, to be honest. Like you're one of the lesser talented defenses in the league. I think you need to add a lot of resources to the defense. Because at least like the defense, this is like the first game the defense was competitive all year. Like at all. Would this defense perform better under Vic or Flores? I mean, maybe. But I don't think it'd be much better. Defense, you need to improve at corner, you need to improve at safety, you need to improve at linebacker, you need to improve at defensive tackle, you need to improve at edge. Like you need improvements at all 3 spots. After this season, edge right now, like obviously the guys need to play better, but you were fine in terms of players, but Phillips and Chubb will be gone. So like after this year, like you're going to need improvements at every single position. Offensively, I don't think you need big improvements at every spot. Maybe some spots, but not every spot. But it's a combo. But yeah, any final questions before I head out of here? Expect a Kenneth Grant film breakdown tomorrow. Then some just draft videos throughout the weeks. Maybe some film breakdowns, maybe just some regular videos talking, maybe some streams, whatever ends up being. We played Cleveland. This was a good bounce back game for the D, but Tua was too busy giving the ball away. Yeah, but the Dolphins lost the game before Tua really gave the ball away. Don't you think? I mean, the pick six obviously put the game away, but that was also a decent chunk on Achane. But wouldn't you say the 2 interceptions, the game was already over, the second 2? Like, the game was already over by then. Like, because they were in the fourth quarter and the Dolphins were down, like, what was it, 30-something to 6. Yeah, I'll definitely be live more often. There's less. Who would you replace Greer with? Honestly, I don't know as of right now. There's some decent options out there, but like as I said with GMs, it's very hard to predict which are actually good GM options because when you're not in the room, like you don't know who actually has a lot of say and what these people are actually known for. So it's really tough to say from the outside like who are good options. Phillips did get a sack. Do you see him having any chance of landing a contract with Miami? I mean, I would think it's small. I think he's more likely to get traded. What team would be the best fit for Jalen Phillips throughout his career? Maybe someone like the Colts, I think would be a pretty solid fit for him. Is McDaniels scared to commit to the run? Is it incumbent? I know the game script hasn't been in favor, but man, he never seems to fully commit to it. You know what? I think in the past, I think it's been a problem of his. I've seen people complain about it this year, but when you look at it from like an individual play perspective and you go to the plays like when he stops committing to the run, it actually does make sense to me logically why he's not running the ball in those spots. And when he has run the balls in those spots, it just hasn't worked. Like I know there's been some big chunk plays, but the Dolphins' run game just has had no consistency. And yeah, the game flows played a part. So like, while there's a lot to criticize McDaniel for, I don't think the commitment to the run this year specifically has been one of his main issues. I think it's been an issue in the past, but I think this year it actually has made sense why maybe he hasn't committed to the run as much. Maybe there's like certain plays where like, oh, you should have ran it there. But an overarching issue, I don't think it's been that so for this year at least. Yep. But yeah, okay. Thank you guys for watching. This type of season gonna be a long one. It definitely doesn't help out the channel either, but it is what it is. Can't do anything about it. Already heard McDaniel say we may change our play style. Sound like he wants to play more conservative. I mean, that's a possibility. Honestly, I hope he goes more aggressive because Dolphins need to start taking some shots. But yeah, I would like to see, more of a run game commitment, maybe a little bit, but then shots off of that. But yeah, who knows what will happen? Who knows? From those interviews, it made it sound like a lot could happen. But yeah, thank you.